And there we go. We just let some people join. I can see the participants jumping up at the bottom.
Does it tell you how many?
It does on my side. I don't know if you can see how many people. I can see it climbing.
No.
At the moment.
Oh, yes, I have. 43, 45. Come on. Let's 51. Beat Edgar Wright. Come on. I don't think we will. I don't think that's likely.
Welcome, everyone. And yeah, dodge those lasers.
I'm dodging lasers here.
And first and foremost, welcome, Russell T Davies. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, pleasure. Hi, hello, everyone. 104 people and rising, 105.
It's going to be like ticking and have to be at the bottom of the screen the whole way through.
Hello, thank you for having me anyway. Thank you.
So yeah, welcome. We've got a lot of TV shows to delve into. If anyone's got questions, again, put them in the Q&A tab, not the chat tab, and we can get to those. I'm going to start off just by congratulating you on It's a Sin and how much of a phenomenon it's become. Were you surprised? Did you know you were working on something special when you were writing and filming?
Shocked, beyond surprise. I'm supposed to come on to webinars like this and sound like I'm old and experienced and I know exactly how television works. And we're all shocked. I mean, it's a drama about AIDS on Channel 4. We kind of, we thought we knew it was good. We knew we were proud of it and we knew we'd had something to say and we love the cast, but you just can't tell when these things are going to take off. And it's been bizarre. It's been non-stop. It's been a month of it, which is lovely. I'm not complaining, but who would have thought? Just goes to show students, you can't ever predict what will work and what won't. No one at Channel 4 foresaw this. None of us saw it being this big. So it's very nice. It's a nice thing to have happen.
Absolutely, and congratulations again. And this is a story that you've been kind of milling on for a while. So how did it take you this long to get it made, or were you kind of waiting to start putting out feelers for the idea of it to network?
Oh, well, you kind of wait. It's like, I mean, do people lie when they answer that sort of question? Do you get people coming on here going, yes, I planned all this? Your career is just a whole bunch of accidents and attempts, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And, my entire career got interrupted for about 10 years by Doctor Who. And then Jenny had a husband who was very ill. That interrupted everything, which that was more important than work, obviously. So, you can't. I'm aware that I'm sitting in this light, which keeps slicing across my head. It's unusually sunny here in Manchester. Look at the light. I can remember first mentioning this in a meeting at Granada, and I can pin that down to 1995.
Wow.
I was talking about it. I was working on another show called The Grand, which was like it was like kind of Downton Abbey type thing, but without their money. A very cheap Downton Abbey. And I was talking about my friend Jill, who I'd just seen for the weekend. She'd been on the AIDS ward and would tell me all these stories, and I'd been to visit as well. And someone sitting around that table said, "That sounds like a good drama." It's funny, isn't it? So that gets tucked away for why I was talking about it. It gets tucked away. That's 26 years ago. 26 years ago. That's mad. So, and then obviously I needed to write Queer as Folk first. So you don't plan these things. I suppose I wrote a thing called Cucumber in 2015, which is very much about a man burdened with gay shame and repression. It's a cheeky drama, that one. It's an 8-hour drama that only makes sense in the last line. The last line makes sense of the entire 8 hours you've just been watching. And it made sense for me of Henry, the character, and I kind of left that and said, right, I have to write that now, because all his shame and all his body anxiety, all his almost his virginity stemmed from the 80s. So I'd been writing that in Henry, and it was just time to move that center stage. That then gets interrupted. Then it wasn't picked up straight away. It sat on various desks. You get used to that. Then I got asked to write A Very English Scandal, and because that book had just come out, so that immediately took over, etc., etc., etc. Then Trump got elected, and so I wrote Years and Years. And during all that time, It's a Sin was still going from desk to desk to desk, and eventually ended up back at Channel 4. It had been in the first place. So, if any of that sounds like a plan, then it's lies. All of it lies.
And you mentioned shame there as well, which is kind of a part of a lot of gay dramas in general, and it's something I think a lot of gay people struggle with. I know Matthew Todd has written about it quite extensively in Straitjacket, which I definitely recommend people read as well. With It's a Sin though, it's kind of, there's this sexual liberation in the first few episodes, and for a TV show that's, you'd imagine to be about more kind of death, there's so much life in it.
Yes, yeah, a friend of mine wrote to me this morning actually and said, he said, I've been thinking about it. It's not actually about AIDS at all. He said it's about the closet, and various levels of coming out and shame and liberation. Exactly that. It's funny because I'm seeing questions here. I'm trying not to read the questions at the same time. I don't know if that's why. It's Brad Coulson saying, how much did you research it? How difficult was it to put in the writing? And Michael Navarro saying, how much did you research it? And how much is it built from other people's stories, which is a lot. It's like, so the research was, I mean, you know, I was 18 in 1981, so my entire life, I mean, I did research it. I did sit down properly and research every single word, but also the research had been going on since I was 18. Since I very first heard of that virus. So it's been taking shape for that long. And so any insights I've had have been building over those decades, really. And so my research kind of fitted into that. And I researched stuff that I knew nothing about, like the whole medical side. I'm not a medic. So even though I've known people die of the disease, I wouldn't have known the ins and outs of exactly what stage of every illness. So I did the diligent research. And but mostly was talking to a lot of people's experiences, people living with HIV, people whose partners died of it, families, trying to track down families who suffered those losses, and a lot of those families you couldn't talk to because a lot of those families still maintained that their child died of liver cancer or in one case, yes, I'm being careful. And even now, it's funny, even now I'm being very careful what I say because I identify those families. There's one family who said he died of a different virus that I can't say because that won't identify that family. It's very strange. So out of that, do you know, it's once you're still tapping into fear and secrets, you know, it's much more than just shame. Because I think yes, that's part of it. And there's a book called The Velvet Rage. There's Matthew Todd's Straitjacket, which I like and I don't like. I think there's far more to our experience than just shame. So that's why there's far more to the drama than just shame. It's not a drama about shame. It's some terrible, some harsh conclusions are reached at the end, but that's two wildly grieving women at the height of their passion, actually. So yeah, it's a rich area. I'm very much aware that, you know, someone could sit down and write an HIV or AIDS drama set in exactly the same period and come up with a completely different drama. There are many, many aspects to it. So hopefully this has opened that up. Many more voices to be heard. And, you know, I think honestly, I think you'd be sitting in some sort of seminar or webinar in 10 years' time with the next drama that says, you know, a couple of years ago, there was The Inheritance in the West End, which was really powerful. It's an amazing play. If you haven't seen that, you should try to read it. It's a really ferocious piece of work by Matthew Lopez. So that was only just a couple of years ago. Now you've got this comes along. So there would just be more. It was such a massive thing to happen in the gay community and the queer community and, well, the whole world, all of our communities, that there'll still be a lot to be said about it, I think, over the years to come, always.
And something that really clicked for me at the end of this series as well was sometimes people will watch queer stories and queer content and kind of think could be being shocking for the sake of being shocking. And I think something that really kind of contextualized everything was the end of this series, and it's there like, no, it's important to see it in this way because it should be celebrated. It shouldn't be hidden. And also it's life, isn't it?
It is that. I do feel, I mean, I've done a lot of it over 20 years. I've done a lot of gay series and a lot of gay characters, you know, even if that's Captain Jack in Doctor Who. And I'm kind of, it's the thing I keep on saying is that revolutions have to keep on happening. You have to keep on doing it. And obviously it is better now. The world is better now. Nonetheless, every single stage, every single introduction of these characters, I have to go through the same arguments every single time. Not just with the straight audience, with the gay audience, saying you're not representing enough queer voices. This is all too white. This is all too, from my point of view. It's like I get there's literally a critic crops up every time I put something on air saying I am homophobic. Russell T Davies is homophobic, and it's like you sit there sighing, and you just have to do it every single time, and which is fine because I'm lucky and I get to make this stuff, and I'm speaking of a position of great privilege, but no straight writer has to go through that process. And I think if you're 21 years old and you're trying to get your stuff made, it's a massive pressure. You have to represent everyone. You have to get every single voice in there. You have to cover every aspect of the experience. No, you don't. You have to choose exactly which path you're choosing and tell that story well. And the pressure to be every voice and to not allow you to write voices that are not your own now is extraordinary. It's fine for me. It's not a pressure for me. I'm 57 years old. I've kind of beaten it away every single time. But I wouldn't like to be starting now. I think if you were 21 years old, I think those pressures of those critics and those online voices is enormous. Anyway.
And what would your advice be to someone kind of that age then looking to start writing and telling these kind of stories?
Well, it's a tricky double act because you've got to listen to those other voices. You've got to, and there are voices calling out to me. You've got to be inclusive, but at the same time, mustn't be ashamed of being yourself. If you are white and you're middle class, don't think I can't write something, because history is for, and especially if you're queer, actually. Because if you're coming from a queer point of view, then being in the minority, you get the minority's voices are louder in your head. But actually, the straight majority have never had that pressure. They've never had people say, you can't do that. Thousands of years, they haven't had people say, you can't do that, you can't do that, you have to write yourself. There's a terrible, terrible pressure now in this very good urge to be authentic and to be true, and to be representative is a very great urge, because there's been so many voices left out of the discussion for thousands of years. But nonetheless, that is not allowing for the fact that you're allowed to imagine anyone or to be anyone in your imagination. And that's exactly what straight writers have done for thousands and thousands of years. And so we shouldn't be less equal than them. So somehow find your balancing act in there. I mean, you've just got to be, it's kind of arrogant being a writer. You have to find your arrogance, actually. Because to be a writer means you've got to sit there going, I think the story is worth telling. I think other people want to see this story. Oh, the light is in the middle of my head now. And this is mad. And it's like it's following. And, you also have to go and sit in television company and sit there and say, I think I want £6 million for my idea. That's how much I believe in my idea. So if you haven't got that, you don't have to be an arrogant person, but if you don't have that little spine of steel, of determination, then you're never going to get anything made. So you have to kind of cultivate that. And there comes a point where if you have a story, you have to shut out all the other voices. You have to shut out a lot of voices in your own head saying that you're rubbish. That's the greatest thing a writer has to do, is the other critics almost irrelevant. So you've got to shut out all the other critics in the way that you have to shut out all the voices in your head saying you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you're rubbish, you're rubbish, you're rubbish. It's like, it's hard. It's hard.
I'm going to get to some questions. I've got some here right now, actually. This is from someone who couldn't actually make it to today's stream because of an appointment somewhere. But they said, hi, Russell. It's so brilliant to have you here today. All your work is fantastic. A massive Doctor Who fan. What's it like being a showrunner during your time on Doctor Who? What was your collaboration like between departments, such as editing, production design, etc.?
Oh, well, that's the showrunner. The showrunner exists to collaborate between departments. And that's just, it's some kind of usual balancing act that you have to get across exactly what you want, but you have to employ geniuses who will tell you what's good. It's not, you're not there to tell a designer what to do.
No.
But you are there to tell a designer what you want. And it's a classic example of this I always use. It's like if you use the color red. If you say he walks into a red room, then your costume designer might think that's a brothel, and your designer might think that's hell, and the props people might think that's blood. A red room, it's like you have to sit around a table, and that's why you have a tone meeting. We actually have literal physical, or they were physical Zoom meetings now, where you literally describe, you sit there going, no, this room is dawn. It's the light of dawn. It's a new hope. It's red. It's the color of the sun. It's that kind of red. You have to get that across to them, while allowing them to say, actually, blood's a pretty good notion because the scene's about to get violent. It's like it's opening. I'm making it sound like more of a battle than it is, because in the end, you employ good people, and they wouldn't be there if you didn't get on with them, and you just have to cultivate a world in which you speak the same language. And I would recommend it. I think every writer, if you're not, even if you're not the showrunner, you should pitch to become an executive producer or a producer on your show. But that means learning the rules. That doesn't mean you can't be nuts on things. Writers are quite nuts, really, and they have to kind of learn not to be nuts on shows. There's no point in going on set and saying he's in the wrong color shirt. And I do know writers who've done that. That should be a blue shirt. That's wrong. It's like for a start, that shirt was decided long ago. Where were you then? Actually, not with costume these days, but that shirt was probably decided a week ago. And why weren't you part of that process? And why does it have to be blue, really? And you've employed someone brilliant to put them in clothes. But if you have got a great reason why it's blue, maybe that pays off in 2 episodes' time or something, then you should have communicated that earlier. So you do need, the sooner you get stuff made, you do need to start learning and becoming part of a production team. If you've written something, and some productions are cheap and some producers don't quite get the showrunner stuff, so you might not have a producer credit, but go on set anyway. Go on set if you can. If you're having your first thing being shot, or even your 20th thing being shot, go on set, learn them. Don't get in the way. Don't stand there going, no. Don't talk to the actors and give them notes behind the director's back. You've got to learn the etiquette of it. You've got to build up a relationship with the actors that does not undermine anyone else's. Oh, I could write a book about this. I could talk forever about this. I'm wandering all over the place this afternoon. Just before this call, I left my phone in a taxi, and which is the worst thing that could possibly happen to you these days. And I've now got it back. The taxi driver drove it back, but I've still got adrenaline shooting around because I was in such a state of shock when you lose your phone. I'm like this. Anyway, very nice taxi driver. Hooray. So that's a very long question. That, I mean, there are books about show running, and there's a lot of information online, and every writer should aim to be one, I think, because I think it makes for a better product. But even if you just want to do the rudiments of it, learn how to act, learn how to be with. It's not a place for temper, and it's not a place for selfishness. It's an open process, but it's lovely. It's like, I'm making it sound like it's full of problems. Everyone's nice. All departments love it if the writer comes in or the producer comes in to talk about what clothes they're wearing or stuff like that. Normally, people feel very divorced from production, so the more we all talk to each other, the better it gets. That went around the houses. That question was like, tell me about show running. give me a year. Yeah. But good luck. It's absolutely worth doing. Really, really, really aim for it if you want to write and do that. It's a great thing to aim for. And a lot of people are very open to it now. And if you work with producers who are not open to it, go and find other producers. Actually, I do know someone who's just been through a terrible process with this on a very fine show. And actually, my only advice to her is go and work somewhere else. Finish that show, do your job. Lovely, done, move on. If you're working with producers who are not open to that, then they're idiots. What are they protecting? What are they scared of? How do they not want the writer there all the time? So yes, choose your... I always find in life, it takes you about 10 years to find the producers and the people you want to work with, from about 20 to 30. They're good years for finding things out.
Great. How was the writing? Because I know with, for example, A Very English Scandal and It's a Sin, you write all the episodes. How does the writing process differ between these limited series and something like Doctor Who? Do you work with a writer's room?
I haven't. I didn't. I did do a writer's room. I went to America and did a year of Torchwood there.
Yes.
I prefer Doctor Who. I didn't do. They do a writer's room now. Chris Chiplin does a writer's room. I just worked one-on-one. I kind of mapped the whole series. I would plan every episode. You leave gaps or something like Stephen Moffat. It's like, do what you want, Stephen Moffat. But I'd need to know what he was doing so that the next episode wasn't doing the same thing. And so then just one-on-one meetings with the writers at every draft. And I'd go to every single draft. I'd read every single draft, and we had very good script editors, but I was also kind of lead script editor on that, and which I enjoyed. And it's a tough job. It's like we've made it very clear on that. Normally, I'm there to kind of protect the voice of the writer. That was a very tough show to work on because the program was more important than the writer. Actually, it's a big old franchise. That it's not like It's a Sin is my vision of that era, and I May Destroy You is Michaela Cole's vision of what she wanted to say about that experience. Doctor Who's a great big industrial popular BBC One family primetime franchise, and that's the master of every decision. So then I would rewrite it if I had to, which is often actually. Just to get it right, you had to. Couldn't muck about with that joke. Can I swear? I better not swear.
Yeah, you can do. That's fine.
Come on. All right.
And we put a spoiler and a swearing warning out. So, and you mentioned Torchwood there as well when you went to America to do that series of Torchwood, and then you of course did a number of series before you went out there as well, and you also brought out Sarah Jane Adventures. What was?
Yes, we had lots of teams. Yeah, that was a bit of a writer's room, Sarah Jane. Yeah, sometimes we'd have one writers' meeting at the beginning with lots of ideas being thrown in, which was brilliant. Actually, we had like 2 days per series of, so that was half a writer's room. We'd start like that. And that's when someone sits there and goes, I'll never forget the day when someone said Sarah Jane versus the Mona Lisa, which is still the best pitch for a story I've ever heard. We laughed for about 3 hours at that. So we did that. We got Suran Jones in as the Mona Lisa. Sarah Jane versus the Mona Lisa. How mad was that story? I can't believe we did that. So they were brilliant. But then once you've done that, once we've done the pitches, then we just work. I don't believe in the whole room, right, working on everyone's script. I don't believe in that at all. I know that works. I know that's how America does it. I've done it. Not for me.
And was the creation of Torchwood, obviously that was aimed at adults, but I know a lot of younger people like me at that age when it came out as well, that recognized the characters and the name that was introduced in series 2. And then also because of the more adult relationships and particularly like the queer themes running through it as well. Was that part of you? Did BBC approach you to develop something for like a more mature audience?
Oh,
or was
God,
this kind of part
yes.
of you wanting to tell kind of like queer stories and at the same time your love for Doctor Who from?
No, it was the BBC actually. It was a very hungry time, and it was before 2008 when everything started getting cut back. And I mean, making Doctor Who was quite enough work actually, but then they just wanted more. They just wanted, and also it was building up a base in Cardiff, a power base.
Yes,
Doctor Who was the first program to come out of there. There was a very big push from Jane Tranter to make stuff from the regions, which I completely agree with. And and you are the Bournemouth Film School. It's like I've never lived in London. I've worked in Manchester and I've worked in Cardiff, and I'm passionate about stuff not coming out of London all the time. So it was a push. It was kind of. The success of Doctor Who was unprecedented, and no one had seen anything like it. So it took us all by surprise. We were a great team, and we were lucky that the head of drama, Jane Tranter at the time, loved us and loved the show and was delighted by its success. And that's when you've got to make hay where the sun shines. I very much believe that. You've got to grab success while it's there. So the opportunity was there. Plus, it was me and Julie Gardner, who was the head of drama at BBC Wales. There's no point we decided there's no point in having one successful show coming out of Wales, because if it had ended, imagine if Doctor Who had run for 3 or 4 years and then ended, it would have died. And we knew there was so much talent there, so many good crews, so many good people, that Doctor Who's only 9 months of the year in production. We just needed more. So it was a production base, and that was that was happening on a very big level. That was moving to build a studio in the Bay. We actually built a studio in the Bay, which we finally got built when I left. So I never got the advantages of the studio in the Bay. But for example, they moved Casualty from Bristol to Cardiff. And that was a very big move. There were a lot of people in Bristol who made Casualty, and a lot of people were upset about that actually. But it was tough. It's because you need to consolidate that stuff to build a base, which then trains people, which then, you could be 14 years old and growing up in Cardiff thinking, I'm going to work for the BBC over there, right on the spot. I'm so dedicated to doing that. And so there's all those pressures at once. And it simply became, let's do a spin-off. And so you're not going to do a spin-off from Doctor Who that's the same. And Doctor Who is a very unique tone. So to do an adult show was kind of obvious. And then about 6 months later, Children's BBC came along saying, can we have the adventures of young Doctor Who? And I was like, no, we're not doing that. A young Doctor and Gallifrey, can you imagine how dreadful that would be? Oh, look, a portal. It just would have been absolutely awful. But I said, what you can do, by that stage, we'd used the character of Sarah Jane Smith from classic Doctor Who. We brought her into Doctor Who, which I loved. And literally, on the day we wrapped that story, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to bring her back every year. I love her. I love the actor. who's sadly no longer with us. I love the whole idea. So I was already thinking we must do more of that. And then children's BBC said, can we have a show? And I was like, yes, you can have that. So we were just mad. So we ended up producing, I was working on 3 shows at once. And actually it was like 6 shows at once, because it was like also Doctor Who Confidential, Torchwood Declassified, totally Doctor Who, and the Sarah Jane Alien Files, let alone we did online cartoons and stuff like that. It was the busiest time of my life. I will never be that busy ever again. But but then the financial crash came along in 2008, and all of these things kind of petered down and petered away. And we were right to do it when we did. If we delayed on any of those things and said, oh, let's do that, let's see how it goes in a couple of years. So, and you know, it's not like I wasn't working down a mine. I wasn't working on a COVID ward. It's like, it was hard work, but I had my tea every night and I slept like a log every night. So it was kind of worth it. It was brilliant. Yeah. Happy days.
Someone has asked, what is your favorite episode you've ever made of any show?
Stop it. I can't answer. I love them all. I'm very proud of Cucumber, episode 6, actually. And I won a BAFTA for that one, for writing that one. And I kind of thought, good. You're not supposed to think that when you win, but I thought, actually, yeah, I'll take that for that one. But I like them all. I like all. Stop it. You can't answer that. No.
And you mentioned Cucumber there as well, links into this, my extra part on this question from Sol, who says, you write a lot of mini-series. Would you ever return to these characters and their worlds? And my tag-along version of this is, why did you have to kill off Hazel? I'll never forgive you for that.
I know. I brought her back and killed her off in the same moment.
I know. I'm so excited.
Cheeky. No, I just like the only long-running thing I've done is Doctor Who, and Sarah Jane. You know, those shows are designed to run and run. Those shows are designed to be different with every story. And I partly I'm just, I suppose I'm a bit of a coward. So I think if these things die, then you'll never get a chance for a second series, and then all your hopes and dreams die with them. That's a horrible feeling. So I don't like that. So, but I kind of think of, like, when I think of a show, it's like 6 episodes long or 5 episodes long, and that means I pour everything into it. And I don't think so. A lot of series kind of suffer sometimes. They think, oh, we'll do that next year. And you never quite get to pay everything. You know, you look at It's a Sin. It's so concentrated.
Yeah,
I've genuinely said everything I've ever wanted to say about the experience there, and it's kind of worked. There's not one bit of me thinking, oh, hold that back. Oh, let's do that next year. Oh, let's do that in year 3. It's just how I like working. And now at times like this, I'm mad because they would bite my hand off for a second series of that now. Well, I presume they would. No one said so. That's an interesting thing. No one has voiced those words at all. Have we got any more? But yeah, it's just, I just want to write the next thing. That's all. It's as simple as that. I just want to sit at this desk and literally here and create someone new people, new things that just, I mean, they're lining up now in my head, and it's just more exciting than thinking, oh, here we go, the same again. And that's to bring in old stuff back, you know, and people say, oh, you know, bring back the Queer as Folk. It's like, it would just be awful, wouldn't it? It just wouldn't work. And Hazel deserved to die. No, she didn't. But actually, that's part of it. I'm never going to bring her back. That's not going to happen. So I might as well. I mean, I brought her back for that one scene because the events in that episode reached such an extraordinary height. I mean, that's why that's a good script. That man is being told. So that's an entire episode of a man being told by his whole life and on everyone on that day that just fancying someone is not a reason to go home with them. It's not enough. That you need to look after yourself sometimes. You need to go home sometimes. And that urge was so powerful that literally a ghost comes from the grave to tell him, and he ignores that. Or is it someone from his favourite television programme? It's never quite clear which one it is. Is she really there? I don't know. And I genuinely don't know. And yeah.
I like that reading of it as well.
Yes, I do. It's like it's one of the few scripts I've ever written that's television scripts, very didactic. They tell you exactly what's happening, just for budget reasons. They're a description of everything that needs to happen on the day. And that's one of the few scripts I've ever written where it says maybe this happens, maybe it didn't. It's interesting. Yeah, it makes it kind of richer, I think.
Someone has asked, what's the public reception to It's a Sin been like in comparison to that of Queer as Folk?
Wow. Well, mad and much more of a surprise. You expect controversy with Queer as Folk. Also, we weren't so online for Queer as Folk. That was 1999. So there was no Twitter. We were online. There were like little Channel 4 chat rooms that 20 people would sit and type in. And I went in there once, and under my own name, I think. And it was like, oh, you're Russell Davies. That was it. It was just mad. And so that was more like dealing with the press back then, which is fine. And Doctor Who is designed to be massive. Like I said, it's like you're designing a show that is it's meant to be in every single newspaper. It's meant to be the headlines. It's meant to be posters. It's meant to be massive. So for this to become that, it showed. My niece said the other day, she said, when I popped up on another show, I'm on Zoe Ball tomorrow. It's mad. And I'm on the Peston show tonight. It's all going nuts. And my niece said, this is Doctor Who sized. And she said it with real shock in her voice, because it's a drama about AIDS. It's not meant to be big. It's not meant to be have all this fuss. And so we're all surprised, every single one of us. And we're all kind of, we're doing a lot to look after the cast, because the cast are like being stopped in the street, which is lovely. It's all very nice, but it's also very disconcerting if you're an actor. It's a very strange experience. And suddenly everyone wants a bit of you. And also, and what's interesting is it's in the world of HIV and AIDS. It's a very delicate area. One wrong word, and well, that's true of any show. I mean, one wrong word about Doctor Who. If anyone in 2000 had ever piped up and said, "I don't like John Pertwee," it would have been like, "No, don't!" You would have been murdered. You would have been massacred. So you not only have to ride with the lovely attention you're getting and the success of the show, you have to be aware that one wrong word will make headlines and genuinely upset people. And that's fine if it's a past doctor. That's a joke. If it's something about HIV or AIDS, that's people living with HIV to this day. Many people, and and the work's still being done. The stigma still being fought. So it's not easy. You have to be very careful not to say the wrong thing. Which is odd, and it's a very odd thing to celebrate. You actually want to go, yeah, successful program like this, and then you have to go, lots of people died. You have to really kind of rein it in and say this is a really tough subject to be celebratory about. So no, that's a long answer. We weren't expecting it at all, not for a second. It's properly a shock. I don't think I'll ever see anything like this again. Yeah, amazing.
It's been amazing to see how much in the lead up to it and the following as well, how much Channel 4's really got behind it. And I mean, marketing was everywhere. I know of obviously in COVID times for the last year as well, there hasn't been much kind of marketing on like buses or bus stops and things like that, but it just seems to be, and online as well, just everywhere. In January,
supported it completely. I mean, they did the same to Cucumber. Cucumber had posters. It was frozen. They died a death. That show absolutely died. Interestingly, audiences on all four are now being pushed towards Cucumber once they've finished. It's the same. Yes, and the figures for that are ratcheting up. That's suddenly they're saying, "Oh, finally, that's getting viewing figures," because that was a much tougher series. Cucumber, it was much tougher. It's a really hard thing to watch. It says hard things about gay life and queer life, and it's not a comfortable piece of viewing, which we knew from the start. So that was genuinely a hard sell as well. Who knows what works? You never know. Then if you try to write something popular, it'll die a death. That's the bizarre thing. God,
we've had a few questions coming about how you write characters, and also I think something that you do amazingly well is relationships, friendships and romantic relationships as well. One that character and relationship that springs to mind for me is Celeste in Years and Years, played by Tinia Miller, who gorgeous. I love. And then since seeing her in Years and Years, she just seems to be everywhere. And then I rewatched, of course, Cucumber and Banana, and then she's there as well. And the relationship with the mother-in-law and how that changes over the series. It's so fantastic. So just wondering if you could speak a little bit about how you write characters and yes.
That's a great one scene about a ham sandwich. It sums up their whole life. It's interesting though, because I've been thinking about that, because people ask me that a lot, and I mean, I don't know what I do. I just sit here and I think of them. But I tell you what I do, which is that, especially these past few shows as well, English Scandal, Years and Years, and It's a Sin, have taken place over many years. Years and Years was 15 years. English Scandal was 20 years. This is 10 years. It's a Sin. So what I do, I always think a bit like I'm a drone. You know those great big aerial shots you get, and there's someone's life, and you choose the most important moment that says a lot, that makes the character invest in the person. For example, it's a Sin. The very first scenes are Richie at home the night before he goes to university, when he's like the golden boy of his own family, and he's off to study law. And what I mean is, it's like that. There are a lot of choices. It's the choice. In the end, it's not what you write. It's what you don't write. And there's a lot of choices involved in that. You know, that could have started with the postman arriving, the letter. Oh, come on, Richie, open it up. He opens it up. He's passed his A-levels. Hooray! I mean, that's a nice scene. That's a genuinely good scene. And yet you don't quite need it. It's like, or it could have started with him, you know, having a crush on someone in school, and maybe a fiddle in the gym or something, you know, and then, you know, all secret and repressed, but gleeful, and then, oh, don't tell mum, don't tell mum. You know, his first gay experience. That's what I'm saying. You've got a lot of choices where to start with Richie. It could have started at university, day one. You know, walk into a lecture hall. Oh my God, and he's all fresh-faced. That's a good start. All those things I'm suggesting are good starts. In fact, there's nothing wrong with any of those. This is you've gone straight, Lewis, to what it is to be a writer. It's the choices that you make, and that doesn't mean there's only one choice. Actually, that A-level is a great start to a drama. I love that. Day one of university, that's a great start to it. His first fumble at 16, that's great. The school disco, that's all good. That all says a lot about Richie. But what I do, you know, and I just have to trust my instincts, and I do have good instincts for this, is I just choose one that sums up everything. It's all in the scene that I chose. It's the night before going to university, and you've got to watch that bad dialogue. Once you choose that moment, you've got to treat your audience with respect and not say, well, you're off to university tomorrow, Richie. That's going to be exciting. Don't do those lines. Don't do those lines. If you listen to that opening scene, it's all buried in there. Oh, I'll do the packing. You're not going to be bloody Lord Chancellor, says his dad, because he's off to study law. You've got a lot of information being packed in there. But what you get is Richie, and then his mother says she'll paint his room, and so you see him hiding all his gay books that he's built up as a teenager. So you get his gayness, you get his family, you get the little prince, he's kind of like the golden boy, you get his dad being resentful of how clever he is, you get his mum being very kind of faithful and also a bit small-minded. It's no offense to her, but Valerie is essentially Isle of Wight small-minded, and you get the Isle of Wight. So, and no offense to the Isle of Wight, but, you know, you've got some distance. I chose the Isle of Wight because if you want to choose someone going from the suburbs to the big city, then make them cross water. You know, make it a bigger journey, make it kind of epic. It's kind of Greek myth. It's just bigger. You've got the ferry, you've got everything. So actually, I've chosen a moment in which all those things are being said, but you have to do the work. The audience has to do the work. Actually, there's not much exposition in that scene. I'm subtly kind of saying, and it is quite, you know, you have to listen to realize, oh, he's off to university tomorrow. Oh, he's a bit cocky. The very first speech is him showing off about the law. He's kind of talking nonsense as well. It's like he's very young. He's an 18-year-old pontificating. You know, and the camera's right on. It's perfectly directed. It's like he's going blah blah blah. I think this. I think that. So it's like the little bit of his sister's there rolling her eyes, like a younger sister would. So do you see what I mean? It's like you can go through every character like that. It's just choosing the moment that says the most about them. That isn't necessarily telling the audience all about them. They've got to do a bit of work. Not a lot. It's not a puzzle. You're not watching someone walking through a maze. But the audience has to do a bit of, you have to listen. And, you know, if you're sitting there clicking through your phone and half listening and stuff like that, then you're not going to quite get, you're going to miss the fact he's studying law, you know, that he's off tomorrow. It's like, so it's just that. I think that's one of my, if I have a technique, it's for being that drone and then choosing the moments of saying, and all of these dramas skip years. They skip years. There's tons of these lives you don't see. Tons. There's so much of Richie's life and Jill's life and Colin's life and everyone's life that you don't see. But I'm just choosing those kind of succulent moments, just those moments that stink, that reach out, that echo, that resonate, that make you think, that involve you, thinking, oh, he's this person, he's that person. So that was a long answer. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And was that
the lights are gone. I'm not dodging the strange lights from my blinds anymore.
That's a relief. Someone mentioned somewhere, I can't find it, but initially It's a Sin was supposed to be 8 episodes, and you cut it down to 5. Was that part of then choosing what to show and what not to show?
It was nothing really. It's been slightly overstated, that. I mean, every series you ever pitched, you go, let's have 8, let's have 10. And if they said 8, I would have done 8. Exactly the same things would have happened, actually. And I think it's a shame there was always meant to be a 6th episode or last episode that would have been set in the present day. And you would have seen where Jill is. You would have seen where HIV is now. Roscoe would have been in it as well. They wouldn't have seen each other for years. You know, those friends that just... In that version, Roscoe probably would have left in episode 4 or 5, just gone in a big temper. Bye, I'm gone. Never seen again. One of those friends that just goes in a big circle and comes back into your life. And actually, he would have become HIV positive in his 50s. That was going to be part of that story, part of that generation. And so it was, and it would have been Jill going back to the Isle of Wight after many years. After all, now she's never been back. And kind of going to uncover the truth about that family, because it's a very strange, very cryptic family, that, and there's a lot buried in there as to why they're so homophobic and hostile and cold. And of course, I think Valerie would have died of old age by then, and but the sister would have been anyway. So there's that never got written, but I don't miss it. I don't miss having to. I wasn't looking forward to casting Lydia West in her 50s. I think that would have been unenviable. It would have been hard. It was a very expensive shoot. There was kind of foreign filming in it as well. It was never written, but it was kind of, I had described it to be, it was kind of half budgeted. But I'm glad we chose the story that we chose. And in the end, I compacted everything I want to say into those 5 episodes. So I can't complain. People are dying to make television programs, so I'm not complaining that I didn't have enough episodes. And it does
feel like it's...
Well, and it's funny, you have to talk.
Perfectly.
You have to talk about these things so much. There's so much publicity now, so many podcasts and student webinars and things like this that you end up talking too much about shows. It's like, in a way, no one should know that it should ever be 8 episodes long. That's absolutely irrelevant. It's got nothing to do with the finished program. And all programs throughout history have been through some sort of editing or compromise or whatever like that. So it's not that important.
Ethan has asked, your comments on queer authenticity have inspired my dissertation. I'd love to hear more on your thoughts on casting queer people to bring nuance and truth to queer narratives over straight washing.
Yes, straight washing. I didn't say it was straight washing.
No, that wasn't a quote. I was quoting the
Yeah. No. I saw you do that. Because they're very good. Sometimes they're good. All I'm saying is what I do. I'm not saying people who do otherwise are straight washing, but maybe I am slightly. But sometimes casting, part of the problem is sometimes casting lead actors raises the money. And we don't have enough gay actors or queer actors in lead roles who will raise the money. And you've got to raise the money. It's like you can stand on your principles all your life. You've got to raise the money to make something. So it's not always straight washing. Sometimes really good people have to make genuine decisions that are saying, look, let's do this. Because otherwise it won't get made. There's no point then, is there? But, God, it's a long argument, but honestly, if you do a good search online, you'll find me saying this 27 times. But right now, it's what I believe. And I sincerely, I said all this before It's a Sin went out, and straight commentators lined up to go, like that. And then we went on air, and actually, I think everyone went, oh, I get what you mean. Actually, I think it rises off the show. I think there's a light, and there's a smoke, and there's an energy to it that I think it's lovely. I'm really proud of it. And I don't blame any actor for that. Listen, my house is built on straight actors playing gay parts. That was the Queer as Folk experience. That was been a lot of Vincent Franklin, who was the lead in Cucumber. He's a lovely, brilliant straight actor. And, I've profited off these people. I've literally but what I mean is their work has led to this. Hugh Grant as Jeremy Thorpe, who's actually, you would say, a bisexual man, actually, Jeremy Thorpe, not Hugh Grant, before you see a headline, as a man who married, had children, and, always called gay, which is curious to me that he's far more to his sexuality than we just obviously discuss. Anyway, so all of those people have led me to a point of freedom and to a point of success where I'm able to sort of say, for now, we're now in 2021, let's try doing this. And I have 27,000 million gay actors in my ear saying, we can't get seen, we can't get seen, we can't get seen. And then everyone says, if you're sitting out there and you're an idiot and you're going, does that mean that gay people can't play straight parts like that? Then you're an idiot. Go and have a word with yourself. Because what that's it, that people discuss gay parts and straight parts like it's 50-50, like it's a seesaw. And it's not. The straight world is massive. The straight world is massively heavier than that. The little gay world, there's 98 gay actors for every 2 gay actors. There's 98 gay straight parts for the 2 gay parts. It's massive. The straight people absolutely win the majority. That's why it's not fair. That's why there's no seesaw. If the gay people don't go and be the straight people, they'd be unemployed for the entire time. There aren't enough gay parts for them. So it's a tricky one. Think it through in more than simple tabloid headlines, and you'll begin to realize there's something very rich, and it's leading us somewhere actually very creative and fascinating, and actually it's becoming more and more true that now I can't imagine casting a trans person, not casting a trans actor in a trans part, and I think most productions are heading there now, and I think that's the world does get better. What's interesting about It's a Sin is, and I am old and weary, and I've been doing this for a very long time. With Colin's mother, we've cast a disabled actor, Andrea Doherty. I've done 500 million interviews about this show. No one has asked me about a disabled actor in a disabled part, which I think is brilliant. It's like she's just being seen as Colin's mother. But trust me, that is a revolution. That is an absolute revolution. I've never not been questioned about that before. Even if people are just asking, even people simply asking, is she truly disabled? And yes, she is. She is a wheelchair user. She's a brilliant actor. We're really proud to use her, and it's a good laugh. She's brilliant. So that you think, wow, the world's getting better there. Absolutely getting better. That no one's even bothered to question it. Nice.
And you also had a character in Years and Years as well who was disabled as well. Is that something that you're
yes.
like going forward as well, that you think is a...
It is. Yes. It's becoming, it's funny because now I'm in a position now where I'm now executive producer on 2 shows I haven't written over the next year or so, which is just a funny position I found myself in by chance. And it's nice actually, because I sit there, we're in the early stages of production, I sit there going, I insist one of these characters is a disabled actor. I absolutely insist, or you're not having my name on the show. And it's great. And there's no argument. Everyone's like, fine, we'll do that. So that's brilliant. I mean, sometimes you can write that part in, but sometimes you can just cast blind and sort of say, let's see who we find, let's see what talent we get. That happened on Years and Years. That part was not written as disabled. Then you meet Ruth Madeley, who played Rosie Lyons, and your life changes once you meet Ruth. She's literally a fireball and a meteor and a hoot. She's the funniest woman. And she literally becomes a friend for life, and she teaches you. It's not just that, there's very good people in Manchester. There's an actress called Shirley Houston who plays Izzy on Coronation Street. She lives in Manchester and she's a wheelchair user, and she bollocks the rest of us night and day. It's like, she's not night and day, but she's very, very good at simply nagging and writing to all the producers in Manchester saying, why don't you cast disabled? Why don't you cast disabled? Why don't you cast disabled? And she's brilliant. She's a powerhouse. And we start to slowly, I'm sure she could tell you how slow the process is, but we start to listen to her. It's like nagging works. And she doesn't nag. She's brilliant and lovely and funny and literate, but she does the work. She does the work of like knocking at your door, demanding you make changes. And like I say, I'm so lucky in this job and so privileged that you have to listen. You have to. Of course we listen.
And on the note of Colin's mum as well, Helen commented just saying, disability Twitter noticed and loved it. Well.
Oh, did it? Oh, that's good to know. I didn't know that. Brilliant. Nice. Thank you.
On another question, are you okay to talk spoilers for It's a Sin?
Oh, I don't mind. Yeah.
Okay, we have put quite a few spoiler things out for this discussion. No, exactly. Was Richie's death always going to happen off screen? And that reveal, it seemed very much as a viewer and thinking as a writer that it has to, almost like it had to happen that way for Jill's character as well.
Yes, I mean,
what was your thinking behind that? And
simply a good idea.
yeah.
And actually, it's not just a good idea on the spot. It's like all 5 hours of building up to that, all 5 hours of showing you that character in all his complexity, all his joy, and all his madness, and his selfishness, and his destructive behavior, and his redemption, his ballet. They're all building up to the fact that you miss his death. That's the point. The point is written. The whole show is written with the emotion of missing the people who are lost. People we loved were boys and women died of AIDS. You know, the people who we miss, of recreating that feeling of loving them and missing them. So to miss his death, we actually miss everyone's death. I was very wary and cautious about kind of illness gets strangely glamorized on screen and becomes strangely attractive. It's a weird thing. There's a sheen on the screen sometimes that it was always something to, I think, you know, these are real deaths. So I think you had a sort of amount of dignity of looking away from it. So that is, but it's I look at that episode, it's like, it's the most well-placed advert break you will ever see, because it's just before you're told that. And when it's the third advert break, you kind of relax. Even if you're watching on streaming, you get the little break with the little card coming up. Well, on all four, you get half an hour of adverts, and then you get that coming up. So you relax. I do. It's an important thing to remember. I think when you're writing that, everyone watching is quietly looking at their watch like that, and they're planning when to have a cup of tea or when to go to bed, and you can feel an hour-long drama passing in your head. I always go into films, and my first question is, how long is this? Just so you can feel, you know, is it 2 hours or 3 hours? Bloody 3-hour films these days. But so you can feel when you're heading towards an ending. And even if you don't know how long something's going to be, you can feel a third act coming on its way. So that whole episode is a bunch of tricks and deception, so that you get a montage 10 minutes before the end of time passing in that B&B with Jill making her phone calls. You don't get a montage in the last 10 minutes of 5-hour drama. That's completely to mislead you into thinking everything's going to be okay. And then you get an advert break, and the advert break hides the fact that a day has passed. And it's all a piece of structure. It's all good writing, actually, to be honest. It's clever. So that line hits you completely out of the blue. When I wrote that, I made sure that the line saying he died yesterday was at the top of a page, so you get it on the page turn, even though most people read scripts online now. But a lot of people have hard copies. You get a hard copy and a read through, and there's a lot of people turn the page and go, bang, that line at the top of the page. I literally paced out the drama and the dialogue and the stage direction so it would hit you there, because it's not just a trick in that scene. It's the whole 5 hours are heading towards that. The fact you're robbed of him. Yeah.
I remember watching it, and it just kind of, I gasped. It took my breath away. It was like a gut punch, and then just kind of that shock, and then straight away you're.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yes. Friend, it was Steve Moffat, I think, said he didn't believe it. He thought she was kind of joking. Not joking. He thought she was doing it on purpose, and so he
try and get her to leave.
Yes, he spent a good minute going, oh, catching up and going, oh my God, this is real. Like, I love that. That was a nice reaction. Yeah, it's like, and also it's going back to what I said. It's a tough subject matter. It's about HIV and AIDS, and it's about the deaths of young people. It's really hard. It's my job to make this as dramatic and as entertaining as possible. It's hard to use the word entertaining there. I'm aware of how dangerous that word is, but it's my job. I'm paid to do this, and I'm paid to, if everyone's talking about it online, and if people are saying, oh my God, you've got to watch that episode because there's a great big shock in it, then it's working. Audiences are coming to it, and they are watching it, and that word of mouth is spreading. So that's my job, is to tell stories well like that, and that means thinking up the tricks and thinking up the devices that'll bring things to life. So, you know, hopefully it works.
And something at the end of the series that a friend of mine pointed out to me that I didn't even notice until she pointed it out, and I think that's because of my race and being white and viewing stories in a different way, was that none of the characters of color die.
Yes.
Was that a conscious decision?
It partly, yes, I suppose. Yes, they always die, and so I was thinking, yes, there's that very clear moment where they all get their HIV tests right to the midway point of episode 3, halfway through the show, and that's when Roscoe's given the all clear. That's when Ash is given the all clear, and obviously I know that you don't just have one HIV test in life, and I don't think their sex lives, you know, it's not literally saying they're free, but dramatically that is saying actually, yes, they are HIV negative for the rest of this show. And yeah, I think there's a kind of point to that in you know, when you have 2,000 years of all the black characters dying first, all the gay, you know, I'm very much aware that also the gay characters die first, and I've killed an awful lot of them, but I think I've done it, I haven't done it as, I think I've done it well, I haven't done it as subplots, I've done them judiciously, I hope. Yeah.
And someone's asked a question here, anonymous attendee has asked, have you ever considered doing a show similar to Schitt's Creek, where a queer story takes place in a world where homophobia doesn't exist? Which is, I mean, that's a sitcom, so it is different, but would...
I love
yeah,
Schitt's Creek, yeah. I suppose it's like, I think, has anyone ever said anything homophobic to Captain Jack? In all of his appearances ever? I mean, I think he kind of lives in a gay happy world. I don't say gay friendly. Fuck off friendly. It's like has anyone? I'm just thinking, has anyone ever said anything to him? I mean, they take the piss out of him. Gwen will take the piss out of him, or whatever. But he's had wives and grandchildren and lovers and dead lovers. Has anyone ever? I think they take the mickey out of him just because he's so full of life, but so I've done that. Yes, that's that. I mean, the Doctor certainly lives in a world where that's. But I don't think we've ever even taken Captain Jack back in history and had someone make a comment. There, I mean, you first see him, he's strolling through World War II and slapping an RAF man on the arse. I think that's probably the only thing we'd worry about now, is slapping someone on the arse. I think that was acceptable in 2005, and maybe isn't now. That's interesting, isn't it? Genuinely, maybe that's not possible anymore. But
yeah, there's that scene in Torchwood where he's dancing with Captain Jack.
Oh,
Captain
yeah. Well, look at
that. That's
exactly.
the only. There's no.
Yes,
there's no like, conflict there.
No, and everyone stares with. It's an absolutely charming and charmed moment of gayness in 1942. That's it's not breaking all the rules. There are very well documented stories about the Blitz and about times like that in wartime when life is right on the edge, about how open men could be. Actually, that wasn't without precedent, that story. We were kind of acknowledging those stories of actually there were places in which you'd see a man dance with a man and a woman dance with a woman in wartime. There were. Anyway, but yes, even then, yeah, no one throws a stone at them, do they? So yes, questioner, yes, happily.
Good answer.
That is, you're essentially describing the world of Doctor Who.
Yeah. A couple of very quick questions. Just to
I know I
will
have to go at 1500. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I love this dog, on it.
Biggest question of all, what's your favourite Pet Shop Boys song? That's from Alex.
Oh, what do you think I'm going to say? I'm going to say it's a secret. Actually, I like Go West. I think Go West is nuts. Me and my friend once drove through France. My friend Tony Wood drove through France singing Go West for whole summer. I like that one. No, is that the Pet Shop Boys? Is that the Pet Shop Boys? Or is that the Village People? Who sings Go West? Anyway.
I'm not sure. I think all the other questions, to be fair, are bigger kind of questions. So we will
do them all. It'd be very nice. Thank you. Do you have a cast in mind and write for them? No, I don't. Otherwise, there's Saul Bash. Good name, Saul Bash. No, otherwise, I think you write for the people and you limit yourself. So, no, I write it first and then. And anonymous attendee says, do you leave writing deadlines till the last minute in a writer's tale? That seemed to happen a lot on your work for Doctor Who. No, that was only Doctor Who because the workload was so massive that 3 shows at once. It was absolutely massive. So, and even then, I always deliver on time. Excuse me, always deliver on time. If any writers out there, never mind all the advice and all the talk about structure and character and journeys and A arcs and B arcs, stuff like that, just deliver on time. They will love you. They expect it. It's your job, actually. It's what you're being paid for. Let me just say that. And don't bother with all that creative. Oh, my head's just so creative. I need another week. Please, don't toughen up. Get with the job, get real. You're being paid to deliver something. If the man putting up your shelves didn't deliver the shelves on time, you're furious with him. If the man fixing your boiler doesn't fix it on time, you're furious with him. It's like, deliver the script on time. That's become like my closing message, Lewis. I don't know where that came from.
What a lovely
I just leapt on that. I speak, I'm like Evita Peron, speaking to the people saying, deliver your script on time. It's important. I've not done that before. It's an important bit of advice, and people kind of ignore it slightly. And deliver.
And talking about being on time, you've got to go for an interview. Good luck with the US launch on HBO Max for tomorrow.
Thank you.
And congratulations on everything. We can't wait to see what you do next.
You've been lovely, Lewis with the best, clearest camera I've ever seen. Bournemouth School, listen to this man about his cameras, because this is the clearest zoom ever.
I'll do a dedicated Q&A just for that.
It is.
Everyone's saying thank you very much, Russell.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. Sorry I couldn't deal with more questions. I should have allowed. Look, what's your collaboration with Murray Gold? Says Tom D. Haynes. Lovely. I love him. He's my mate, and we just trust each other completely. There we go. Marvelous. I'll go now.
Perfect. Thank you very
thank you, Lewis.
much.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry to run at the end, but thank you. And I'm sorry I was all frazzled at the beginning because I'd lost my phone. But yes,
No worries at all.
I'll stop making excuses now. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.